One of the fastest rising podcasts in the world didn't slowly fade away. It didn't bow out gracefully. It collapsed, loudly, publicly, and in a way that exposed cracks fans never expected to see. Cancelled wasn't just another show, it was a cultural storm. At its peak, Tana Mongeau and Brooke Schofield sat at the center of internet chaos, dominating Spotify charts, selling out live tours, and pulling millions of views across TikTok and YouTube. On the outside, the podcast looked untouchable. But behind the laughter, the reckless stories, and the unfiltered energy, something darker was brewing. And when the podcast finally came to an end, Tana made one shocking suggestion that left fans furious, Brooke blindsided, and the internet questioning whether the end of Cancelled was ever really about growth or betrayal. To understand the outrage, you have to know why Cancelled ended in the first place. From the beginning, Tana and Brooke thrived in chaos. Their chemistry was undeniable. Brooke, sarcastic and dry, balancing out Tana's unpredictable storytelling. Together, they turned embarrassing confessions and scandals into a brand. But over time, the same recklessness that made Cancelled a hit also became its weakness. Brooke, in particular, carried a heavy burden. Online backlash followed her relentlessly, from past controversies resurfacing to fans scrutinizing her every move. The podcast, once a playground for outrageous stories, started to feel like a trap, keeping both hosts tied to an image they no longer wanted to perform. So the announcement came. Cancelled was over. The official reason? They had both outgrown the format. They were ready for something new. But as it turned out, the ending wasn't clean, because in one of their last episodes, Tana made a casual comment that would spark an entirely new wave of drama. It started with an innocent question. What happens to the YouTube channel now that the podcast is done? The Cancelled channel wasn't originally built for the show. It was Tana's personal vlog channel, one she had grown to over 2 million subscribers long before Brooke ever entered the picture. And in that final episode, Tana openly wondered aloud, do I leave Cancelled up, or do we delete all of it? Brooke froze. Her shock was instant. What? Why would you delete all of Cancelled? Do you hate me that much? The mood shifted immediately. Tana laughed it off, insisting it wasn't personal. Just a thought about ending an era. But she doubled down, admitting there were plenty of things she had said on the podcast she wished could disappear forever. She joked about dividing assets, about having to split AdSense checks with Brooke, even about Brooke taking her to court for a few dollars. To Tana, it was banter. To Brooke, it was something else. And to the audience, it felt like the ground had just cracked open. Fans watching at home didn't hear a joke. They heard a co-host dismissing years of shared work as disposable. They saw Brooke's visible discomfort, and they began asking themselves, if this podcast was built on both of them, why was Tana so ready to erase it? The internet didn't stay quiet. Clips of that moment spread instantly across TikTok and YouTube, and fans made their feelings clear. Brooke was being treated unfairly. Viewers flooded the comments with frustration. Some wrote that the entire conversation had weird energy, that it felt cold and inconsiderate. Others said watching Brooke sit there, blindsided by the idea of years of work being deleted, gave them genuine anxiety. For many, it wasn't just about the channel. It was about what Cancelled represented. The podcast had revived Tana's career, giving her a second life in the spotlight. And Brooke had been there from day one, helping build it into a phenomenon. To imagine all of that erased with a single decision felt like betrayal. One viewer summed it up. Brooke helped build this channel as well. Tana, if you create another vlog channel, everyone will go over to it, but you can't do that to Brooke. Still, not everyone sided with Brooke. A smaller group argued that she had made a critical mistake from the start. The channel was never hers, they pointed out. It was Tana's account. Brooke never signed a contract giving her ownership, never secured her stake legally. As one fan bluntly put it, Brooke is a grown woman. She should have signed a contract. Lesson learned. The comment sections became a battlefield. Team Tana versus Team Brooke. But the real issue wasn't just loyalty. It was ownership. At the heart of the controversy was a messy truth. The canceled YouTube channel wasn't a joint project. It was Tana's personal channel, one she had cultivated years before. By the time Canceled launched, it already had over 2 million subscribers. From Tana's perspective, that made the channel hers, no matter what happened with the podcast. She had built it, she had owned it, and she had every right to decide what to do with it after Canceled ended. But Brooke's role couldn't be ignored. She wasn't a guest, she wasn't a sidekick. She was half of Canceled, half of the brand, and a huge part of why it resonated with so many fans. To her supporters, the idea that she could be cut out entirely, her episodes deleted, her work reclaimed, felt cruel. The comparison was obvious. It was like a messy breakup, dividing assets, fighting over who owns what, even joking about lawyers. Fans compared it to the infamous McBroom scandals, chaotic, public, and humiliating. And that was when things escalated further. Because as backlash grew, Tana decided to speak up. And what she said next only deepened calculated betrayal, but just a thought that slipped out in the moment. According to her, she wasn't plotting against Brooke. She was wrestling with something else. Regret. Still, fans weren't convinced. Watching Brooke's face in real time, the tension was undeniable. The laughter didn't land. The joke didn't feel like a joke. And now, Tana was trying to explain herself to an audience that had already made up its mind. She insisted she would never take money from Brooke. Never. She reminded fans that Canceled wouldn't have been what it was without her co-host. How Brooke carried episodes, carried live shows, even carried her at times. To suggest she'd rob Brooke of future checks was, in Tana's words, pointless and stupid. But then, Tana revealed what had really been haunting her, and it wasn't Brooke. Behind the jokes and the bravado, Tana admitted something more vulnerable. She wasn't trying to delete Canceled to erase Brooke. She wanted to erase parts of herself. For years, she had been unfiltered, reckless, and unapologetic online. That was the brand. That was the podcast. But now, rewatching old episodes, seeing the same outrageous clips play during live shows, she felt something different. Regret. She mentioned one in particular, an episode with Trevor Wallace in Paris. A wild story, funny at the time, but now, after seeing it replayed endlessly on tour, she wished it could disappear. And that was just one example. There were countless moments, countless confessions that made her cringe when she thought about her digital footprint. Brooke admitted the same thing during their final episode. They both looked back at old clips and winced at who they used to be. And yet, those very moments, the chaos, the recklessness, the shocking confessions, were what made Canceled the phenomenon it became. This wasn't just about ownership anymore. It was about the permanence of the internet, about what happens when the version of yourself that made you famous becomes the very thing you wish you could bury. And while Tana swore she didn't want to rob Brooke of anything, her words revealed a deeper conflict. What do you do when your past self is the reason for your success? And the reason for your regret? As fans argued online about loyalty and ownership, another detail slipped into the conversation: money. According to Tana, Brooke hadn't even touched her Canceled earnings. Their management had set up systems, contracts, and splits when the show relaunched after its first break. Both women were paid. Both had clear terms. And Brooke? She was financially secure. But for the audience, this wasn't just about paychecks. It was about permanence. The idea that one of the most chaotic, unfiltered podcasts of its generation could vanish overnight felt like erasing history. Tana explained that she had seen this happen before. Other creators, like Trisha Paytas, had rebranded their channels again and again. A podcast one year, a different format the next. and technically, she could do the same. The canceled channel was hers, after all. She had built it to 2 million subscribers long before Brooke came along. Still, she admitted something conflicted. Part of her didn't even want to use that channel for her next project, because anything she posted there would always be compared to canceled. And in her own words, "If I wanted to keep doing something like canceled, I would just keep doing canceled." So the channel's future remained uncertain. Would it be rebranded, left as a relic, or would the episodes eventually disappear one by one until the entire legacy was gone? For the audience, the real fear wasn't about contracts or revenue splits. It was about losing something that had become bigger than Tana and Brooke. Canceled wasn't just a podcast. It was a mirror of internet culture. Loud, unfiltered, chaotic, and unforgettable. It documented scandals, friendships, betrayals, and reckless moments that defined an entire era of online fame. Deleting it would mean erasing those memories, not just for Tana and Brooke, but for millions of people who had laughed, cried, and lived through those episodes with them. For Brooke, it was even more personal. Canceled was her breakout, her moment in the spotlight. To see that wiped away would mean erasing the very foundation of her career. And that's why, even after Tana clarified, even after she insisted Brooke would always get her share, fans couldn't shake the unease. Because this wasn't just a fight over a YouTube channel, it was a fight over legacy. In the end, what started as a casual, half-joking comment spiraled into one of the most uncomfortable moments in Canceled's history. Tana laughed about deleting episodes. Brooke sat there, stunned. Fans erupted online, some defending Brooke, others saying she should have protected herself with contracts from the start. And when the dust settled, Tana clarified. She didn't mean it. She wouldn't erase their work, and she would never take money out of Brooke's pocket. But the damage was already done. Because once the idea is spoken out loud, that years of chaos, laughter, and controversy could vanish overnight, it lingers. And that's the unsettling truth. Canceled wasn't just a podcast. It was a symbol of everything unpredictable about internet fame. It was reckless. It was messy. It was sometimes regrettable. And it was unforgettable. Brooke may have been blindsided. Tana may have been careless. But together, they created something that fans will never forget, no matter what happens to the channel. So, now, one haunting question remains. Was Canceled always destined to collapse under its own chaos? Or did it all fall apart because of one careless comment that revealed just how fragile fame and friendship can really be?